Uh, Oops.
Go ahead.
Okay, welcome again to A Mirror Darkly, Unbridled Inquiry. And today we are going to be talking about electric cars. And with gas prices going up in California, because, we have like the highest gas taxes, I think, in the nation. And gas is it over $4 a gallon again now?
It's $3.95 at
Okay.
Arco.
It's almost, it's
For a
around
regular,
$4,
for
right?
regular. It'll be a little bit less than that at Costco.
So, anyway, and I will forewarn you, we are having some wind. So because we live out in a rural area, the wind does affect our connectivity. So there will be some freezing and there will be some glitches in the feed. So we apologize in advance. There's not much we can do. We may have Spectrum come out and look at the connection just to be sure that it's just the wind and not a bad connection, because they did have to reconnect it when a tree blew over. And knocked the wire
at the
down.
beginning of 2020.
Yes.
2020 was a bad year.
It was. Lots of reasons to dislike 2020. So, but we are now in 2021, and we are here to discuss
Of course, that
electric
doesn't
cars.
sound good because it sounds like 2021.
Yeah. So, I know what I was going to say. We are very willing to take viewer suggestions for shows and also viewer questions. Matter of fact, the schedule is going to change a little bit from what is currently on the Mirror Darkly page, because we have had a viewer suggestion for a topic to explore. It's going to take probably more than one session. So we're going to be talking about the Mosaic Law and the structure of it, and then getting into some other issues and questions that this viewer has. So we're glad to hear from that person, and so we'll start exploring those topics next week. So anyway, so we'll go. Just remember that we work in 10-minute segments. If you have questions or comments or show ideas, please put them in the comment area, either on YouTube or on Facebook, and let us know what's in your head, and we will do what we can to answer your questions and address the topics that you bring up. We do run the show in 10-minute segments, so I'll do that at the end of each 10 minutes if someone has something to say. If nobody has anything to say, we just plow right on through.
Yes.
Right. So anyway, once you go electric, you never go back. And I know that's going to be true of us. So.
Yes. Why is that true of us?
Because we do not want to pay for gas anymore. It is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about fossil fuels and climate change and all that. It's really about our pocketbooks. Because we went from, it was like $600 to $800 a month in gasoline bills for 2 vehicles, to having vehicles that work equally as well, if not better, and we'll probably end up paying about
$30 a month more.
For both,
Yeah.
including the Tesla.
Yeah, $30 to $40 a month
Okay.
more.
Yeah,
And
not more
electric-
than the $600 or $800,
No,
just in our electric
electric-
bill.
yeah,
So
electric
$30 to
bill.
$40 a month to have our vehicles fueled daily. So we don't need to go anywhere to get them. We can pay for quick charging, supercharging, things like that. Not nearly as expensive as gas.
No, it cost about $8 to fill it up all the way.
Right, the Tesla.
The Tesla.
Yeah.
That's with 300 miles of range.
Right, and the Leaf, because it has a smaller battery,
And it's an older car in
and
general.
yeah, and it only has like 80
First
mile of
generation.
range. It costs me about $3 or $4 if I well, it's more if I quick charge it, but if I use a level 2 charge, it's about $3 or $4.
Yeah.
So, and even though that's not going to get me very far, it gets me around town and finish up my errands
Which
if
is
I
what
run
we've
low.
used it for.
Right.
Don't
So.
use that for long distances. The Tesla, though, we can use for long distances.
Yes. Yay.
So the supercharger network makes that easy.
Yep.
So, but yeah, the primary advantage that we have found with electric vehicles, we bought our first electric vehicle, the Nissan Leaf, in 2014.
Yes.
And we bought it used. It's a 2011. It now has over 100,000 miles on it. And one of the other aspects of an electric vehicle that we have found that we like a great deal is less maintenance.
Mm-hmm. Windshield wipers and cabin air filters. That's it. And tires more recently.
Yeah, tire, but those are the expenses that you'd have with any car.
Mm-hmm.
But an electric vehicle does not have a transmission. It does not have oil or oil changes. Doesn't need to have a smog check. Um, doesn't have an oil pump. Doesn't have a water pump. It has far fewer moving parts in general. And so there is just much less that can go wrong with the machine. And so, hence over 100,000 miles, and essentially nothing has gone wrong with it.
Oh, we did do the, was part of the suspension. I'll think of it in a minute. But anyway, in a car like a Nissan, you would expect to do that kind of maintenance around 100,000 or so miles. If it had been a Toyota, it would have been closer to 150 or more thousand miles. But
Yeah. But again, the kind of maintenance that you would anticipate with any vehicle.
right.
But minus all the other kinds of maintenance that you might anticipate having. So the reliability overall with an electric vehicle tends to be much better than with a gasoline-powered vehicle.
And less likely to have the problem that we saw on the way here today.
yes.
There was a car on fire, and I imagine there's probably a fuel line leak or something like that that caused it. But it was just, looks like it had gotten off the freeway, and it was just on the main road that we take from our house to church. And just burning away. Now, there have been instances of Teslas catching on fire, but
After
far less of
accidents.
them. But usually after accidents and things
Something
like
has
that.
seriously gone wrong.
Right. But the
In
car
fact, I
will
think
tell
always
you.
after an accident. I don't think there's any examples of them just
I think,
spontaneously.
well, okay. So I was going to say, but that would count as an accident. So somebody had driven over something at one point
Yes.
early on.
Yeah, with an earlier model of a Model S, they drove over road debris,
Oh,
and it knocked shards of metal up into the bottom of the car, which is where your battery is.
right. It looks, when basically the car looks like a cell phone on wheels. It's the battery is the whole bottom of it. And
And then the electric motor is a watermelon-sized thing between the wheels on the axle.
yeah, so there's no engine compartment or anything like that. There is fire department access because there's little tabs when you open up the frunk,
The
which
front
is
trunk.
right. And
For those that don't know
there's
what that would
and the
be.
tag on there makes me want to pull it. Today when I opened it up to get the groceries, because when I get groceries I usually put it in the frunk because I can. And
It amuses her.
yeah, so I opened it and I saw the little tab there and I wanted to grab it. I'm like, wait, no, it's for the fire department, not for me. So, and I do know that with the Nissan Leaf, there's nothing like that visible that you can see for the fire department. But I did watch an episode of Chicago Fire, and a Nissan Leaf, they had to rescue somebody using the jaws of life, and they cut a hole in the rear quarter panel and clipped the electricity from there so they wouldn't electrocute themselves.
Yeah.
So that is the concern when working on an electric vehicle, is the high voltage factor. You really have to know what you're doing.
Right.
So I do car repairs on gas powered cars, but I won't do them on the electric car unless it's something I know that I don't need to fuss with the
Like the
electricity
air
on.
filter.
Yeah, the cabin air filter I do today. I filled the windshield wiper fluid because it was bone dry.
That was in the Leaf.
Yeah, and
First time
you've
we've
done the
ever
windshield
filled
wipers. Yeah,
So since 2014, first time we filled the...
yeah. I squirted the windshield because it was really dirty, and it went wee, and it squirted, and then the windshield wipers went, and so I went to squirt it again. Nothing. I literally used the last few drops. So today it took almost a gallon of
So it'll last a
wiper
while.
fluid, but you do that in regular cars. So.
Yes. But for us, that's the primary advantage of the electric vehicle, is just the fact that it has much less maintenance issues, and then the cost of fueling it is so much less.
Yeah, so we'll be able to travel more.
Significantly
Yeah.
less. I mean, it's a huge difference. And the reality is that although electric vehicles cost more up front, you recoup that relatively quickly within 2 or 3 years. And the car will last longer probably than a gasoline-powered vehicle would anyway.
Yeah.
The other advantage in electric vehicle, and if you ever drive one, you'll see this or experience
Feel it.
this, feel it, is the instant torque when you're at a light and you put your pedal to the metal and you're suddenly going 60 miles an hour within.
Especially in a Tesla. The
Yeah,
Tesla is a
Tesla is
lot faster.
especially
And it actually
fast.
gives you an instant facelift. You get the G's on your face right away.
It's like being in a roller coaster.
Yeah.
So that takes some getting used to. It can be pretty startling the first few times that you do that. Eventually, you get to the place where if you were in a gas car, you'd wonder what's wrong with this machine. Why would
Well,
it go?
when I drove the Leaf today, and I drive the Leaf like 3 days a week because he takes it to work Tuesday through Friday. So I take the Leaf, I take the Tesla to work on Monday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I drive the Leaf. On Friday, he picks me up because we go get the groceries after work on Friday. So 3 days a week, I'm driving the Leaf. Well, today, I got in the Leaf, take it to the car wash, and it was like not stopping right away. It wasn't behaving like the
Yeah,
Tesla.
the autopilot is not part of the
Yes,
Leaf's,
and I was like,
technology.
okay, I have to remember that when I'm in cruise control, that when the car is in front of me, slow down. That my car is not going to slow down.
If it's a Leaf, if it's
Yes.
that's the interesting thing with the Tesla is that if you're in cruise control and the car in front of you slows down or stops, the Tesla will slow down and stop as well.
And then when the car in front of you goes again, your car goes too. See, my mom has some autopilot features on her Toyota, but it will stop behind the car in front of it, but then the car will tell you the car's in front of you, pulled away, you need to hit the accelerator. And when you do, all you do is tap it and it takes you back up to speed. But in the Tesla, it does that by itself. Like I can literally drive for miles and never touch the accelerator. So
Also with the Tesla, you have what's called one pedal driving. That is if you're not an autopilot and you're just driving normally, when you let off on the accelerator, it automatically engages the engine and then the brakes to bring you to a stop.
oh, and you go through brake pads a lot more slowly with an electric car. The Tesla
Yeah.
brake pads are lasting longer than they thought they would.
Yeah, and on the Leaf, we have yet to have to replace brake
And
pads.
to my knowledge, they're the original ones.
Yeah,
So, because when we got the Leaf, it did not have very many miles. It had like 40 or 45,000 miles on it, which isn't much on a set of brake pads. So it's possible that these brake pads have gone well past 100,000 miles. So that's really good.
and the Tesla as well, we purchased it used. It's a 2018. It had 16,000 miles on it when we purchased it. And again, I feel pretty comfortable buying a used electric vehicle, much more so than I feel comfortable buying a used gasoline-powered
Yes.
vehicle, simply because of the reliability of an electric car.
We did buy the warranty on it though, so if anything does go wrong, and like dog mode isn't work. So one of the things that a Tesla does is it will babysit your dog. It has dog mode. It also has camp mode. So if you're sleeping in the car, it will keep the car cool or warm depending on the environment outside. And you'll be able to like charge your phone, watch movies, play video games,
That's
all
the
on
other
the
interesting
screen.
thing with the Tesla.
Right.
The screen has a lot of interesting features.
Yeah, anyway, so we'll come back to that in a second. So anyway, when we first got the Tesla, my dog is really, he loves to go in the car. He loves to travel. So I bought a travel crate that I put on the back seat. And when we first had the car, dog mode was working fine. So when I go into the grocery store, I put him in the crate and I put the car in dog mode and I lock it. And the screen says, my owner will return shortly. The temperature in the car is this much, or, like 70, whatever the temperature is. And so that people don't break my windows to get him out. But they don't even really know he's in there because he's in the crate, and the crate is just below the level of the window. Although he did get out of the crate one time, and I was walking to the car. I was at Trader Joe's. I'm walking to the car. And I see this little head looking at me out the window. And I was like, no, sir, you need to stay in your crate. And it's the way I had zipped it. I didn't zip it to the end of the trap door, I had zipped it like the zippers together like this. He was able to push his nose through until the zipper came apart enough, and then he weaseled his little body out of there. So, yeah, that doesn't happen anymore. But the reason why I don't want him loose in the car is I'm worried he'll tear up the seats. So, because he does get kind of stressed out when he's alone, so he feels better in the crate, and the crate keeps him from tearing up the car. Because if he destroys the crate, I can always buy a new one, but leather seats in a expensive high-end car is not cheap. So, yeah. But anyway, talking about the screen. So all your driving in the Tesla, this is all on that screen. You have no dials on the dashboard anywhere. The dashboard is all hidden air conditioning vents, and all your driving is done from the screen in the middle. It's your speed, it's your mileage, it tells you what your battery life is that you have left, everything. And when you're in park, you can play video games. So I play Stardew Valley, it's on there. The game that we played on our honeymoon almost 40 years ago, 38 years it'll be soon. Yeah. Tempest, that's on there, and you play it with the steering wheel.
Yeah, several of the older Atari arcade games are there.
Yeah.
Fallout is on it.
Solitaire you can play.
Yeah, Solitaire.
And the background is set to the Martian landscape with a little Martian colony on there.
And Starship.
Yes.
Then you've got just odd things because the engineers at Tesla have a sense of humor. So you have, for instance, something called fart mode. And you can either, there's different ways you can set it up. You can actually go into it and then push the thing and make the fart noise. But you can also set it up so if somebody sits in the passenger seat, it makes that noise. Or you can have it make a farting noise every time you use the horn. It's completely pointless, but
right, but it's funny.
It's a funny thing.
Well, and then okay, so you can run the car using your voice, and so there's various commands like open the front, open the trunk. But if you say open the butthole, the charging little door pops open.
You could say open the charge door.
Right.
But
it's funnier to say open the butthole.
Yeah, there's all sorts of little Easter eggs that people have found, that being one of them. You can also, when you're driving, one of the things that it shows you is your car sitting on the road, and then whatever other cars are going around you.
They look like
icons.
lozenges, or like the cars in the Game of Life.
Yes.
Little nondescript cars.
But if you don't like just the boring, realistic sort of picture, you can change it to being that you're on Mars. And so you get a Martian background.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Uh-huh.
Oh, we'll have to do that when we get in the car.
You can also change it to Rainbow Road, so it's all rainbow colors.
Oh, that's funny.
So just
they need a yellow
odd,
brick road.
Just that may be hidden in there somewhere. It wouldn't be a surprise.
Now the Leaf doesn't have all these little fancy things.
And the Leaf is an older car. I mean, it's
Yeah.
2011. It was the first generation electric vehicle. That was the first year that Nissan had an electric vehicle. One of the nice things that we have with that is the battery has a very good warranty on it. And so under warranty, the battery has been replaced once on the Leaf, and the battery has the new battery that's on it has a 100,000 mile warranty. So, yeah, Nissan's battery tech just is not quite as good as Tesla. Tesla, the bottom line has the best technology.
Right. If you were to buy a newer Leaf, it would go farther.
It'll go further, and the battery will be better.
The problem with buying non-Tesla cars is that they've taken their gas-powered cars and turned them into electric cars. So, like, there's a lot of stuff that the Nissan Leaf has in it that, like, it looks like an engine is under the hood. It's not. It's the motor. But because Tesla built the electric car from the ground up, that your chassis is the battery, and then you just have the two motors. And then you've got the stuff like the suspension and stuff that you need, and then you've got the computer that runs everything else. But with the Leaf, there are a few more moving parts. And I,
They took a Nissan Versa and converted it into what
Right.
became the Leaf. And
So-
so if you look at a Versa and you look at a Leaf, they appear very similar shape-wise because the Leaf is built on the Versa's framework.
right.
So yeah, you get some little oddities.
And the shifting is different.
Yes.
Oh, I was going to say if you get a new. Oh, I did say that. If you get a newer Leaf, you get a better battery that'll go
Right.
farther. But anyway, the shifting in the and this may be different between different brands of electric cars, but in the Leaf you have a little electronic shifter that you either go or don't go. You have neutral, you have drive, neutral, reverse, and then you have eco mode, which my daughter.
Increases your regenerative braking.
Right. Now our daughters have hybrid Toyota Priuses, Prius C's, and they have an eco mode as well, which works similarly, but not as efficiently because the battery's not as big. It's only a battery assist driving. It's not really full battery. It's not full battery, no gas. But anyway, so when you're in drive, you're going to use up the most amount of energy when you're cruising.
In the Leaf.
So in the Leaf. So when you hit eco, it saves you some energy, and it gives you a little bit more. Like when you let off the accelerator, the regenerative braking, you can feel the braking power a little
Should
bit
explain
more.
what regenerative braking
and-
is.
Well, basically the engine is recharging your battery so you can reclaim some miles. You won't recharge the battery using regenerative braking, but like for example, when I've climbed a hill in the Leaf, it uses a lot of battery because I'm accelerating up the hill and I'm dragging the car up the hill. So it's going to use, and that happens in a gas-powered vehicle too. It's just the unit of gas has more energy in it than whatever the unit of electricity is. So you get more bang for your buck from gas as far as the amount of gas.
density.
Yeah, the energy density. But anyway, but when I come back down the hill, it regenerates some of that mileage. So if I'm at the top of the hill and I've got like 40 miles left on my battery, depending on the hill and how frequently I have to stop and accelerate and things like that, when I get down to the bottom of the hill, I could have 46, 47, or even like 52 more miles. Not more, total miles. So it gives me like
Between 5 and
12 or
12
15 miles,
miles.
depending on how I drive.
right.
And so when we first had the Leaf, because its mileage was so limited, I would find the best ways to get home, like if I was low on electricity. So we have one street that runs pretty much right through the valley, 10th Street West. And I found that was the best one as far as lights go and the decline, because we're at a lower elevation than Palmdale, which is south of us. So when I drive north on 10th Street West, I can reclaim a lot of mileage. So if you're on the freeway, you're going to use the most mileage. So if I was low on mileage, I would just cruise 10th Street home, and I would use like almost no energy because I was regenerating it off the engine. Because when you let off the accelerator, the engine kicks in and starts regenerating your battery. And when you come into a light, you can still regenerate by using the brake, but I like to use the engine and cruise in at a
It
longer
also saves
distance.
your,
And it saves your
battery-
brake pads.
yeah.
But like when you're driving the freeway, you don't want to be, you want to stay at a pretty steady speed, especially in a car with a smaller battery like the Leaf. So when I have taken it on the freeway, I tend to drive 65 in the far right lane so I can keep the same speed. So, because the more accelerating you do, the more power you're using, which like I said, happens in a gas-powered vehicle as well. You just don't notice the impact as much. And then I have more I need to reclaim on the downhill side. So if I can stay at 65, I'll get more mileage out of my car. So one time I drove it to Northridge, which is about 45, 50 miles away. And I had 30 miles to spare when I got down there because I stayed at 65, and I was really careful because I wasn't sure if it would make it. And then, but coming back, because there's more uphill than downhill coming back, I actually like pretty much depleted my battery. I used up the mileage I had used going down plus about 30 miles more. So I basically had no energy left in my battery when I drove up the driveway, which is fine because we plug in at our house. So.
And see, that's the advantage. People complain about, well, it takes hours to recharge your car, unless you're using a supercharger, in which case it takes about a half hour. But even then, people wonder, well, look, I can refill my tank at the gas station in 5 minutes.
If you're not sitting in a really long gas line at Costco.
Yeah, but the reality of having an electric car is that most of the time you recharge the car when you get home. You plug it in, go in your house, do what you do in the evening, wake up in the morning, you've got a full tank magically.
Yep.
That is, you're not spending the time going to a gas station, sitting in line at the gas station, filling at the gas station, and then going about your business again. That is, that whole part of your life that you waste, as it were, going to a gas station ceases to be part of your weekly experience. The only time that you would do something similar with an electric vehicle is if you're doing a long-range trip somewhere, in which case then you might have to plug in. The nice thing about the supercharger network, at least with Teslas, is that they put their superchargers near restaurants and that sort of thing. So,
yeah, and malls and things like that. Yeah,
so it's not
you just plan it
uncomfortable.
into your trip. It's like
Right.
You plan potty stops anyway.
Yeah, if you're going
So-
long distance.
And the car will tell you, like you cannot, like if you set your navigation for, say, Utah, it'll say, well, you're going to need to charge on the way, and it'll show you where you need to charge.
Yeah, you don't have to search for a gas station or search for a charging place. The car, at least with Teslas, not with Leaf, but with the Tesla, it shows you exactly where you need to go and how much charge you'll have by the time you get to each of those spots.
And here's the nice thing too, is that when I set it to go somewhere, like when we went to my sister's, or when I've driven to my mom's, I will set it in the navigation system, and it'll tell me that you'll have like 70% of your battery left, but if you come back the same way, you only have 30% of your battery left. So I know I can make the round trip in one tank, one charge. And if not, it's going to suggest where I can charge it at. So the only issue we're having right now with charging is that we don't have the registration for the car yet, and until then we can't supercharge. So we're a little limited
Because
still.
we bought our car at a used from a dealer, and so consequence of that is that it's not automatically set up with the app.
Right.
And so you have to wait until you get the registration and then send that Tesla along with a picture of your driver's license so that they know that, yes, this car actually belongs to you. You're not trying to steal your neighbor's Tesla from them. Because if you only needed your VIN number, you just go and look at your neighbor's.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Yeah, so they don't let you do that. You have to prove that the car is yours. If you buy it directly from Tesla, then it's all baked into the thing from the get-go. But if you buy a used one, it's going to be a little bit more problematic and cumbersome.
I wonder, because, our friend Eric has a Tesla, if he could charge our Tesla for us and we just pay him. No?
No, because it's in your app.
Okay. So, no, we're just stuck. So we can level 2 charge it, but it takes a long time.
Yeah, the state of California were quicker about getting registration.
Right.
So there's several points along that way that can become sluggish.
Yeah.
So until then, it's going to be a little less convenient than it otherwise would be. One of the nice things about a Tesla versus other vehicles is that once you have the app, once your car is linked with the app, when you walk up to the car, it unlocks itself automatically for you. You sit down and it's ready to go. That is, you don't have to push a button to make it start. You just put it in drive or reverse and off you go. There's no added step of turning a key or pushing a button.
And you just get out and walk away, which has become a problem for Tesla owners who say they fly on business to another town and then they have to rent a car, like an old-fashioned gas-powered car.
Yes.
That they're getting out of the vehicles and leaving them running. That's an issue. So especially with the newer cars, because they're so quiet, they don't hear the engine running, so you just get out and walk away.
Because that's what you're used to with Tesla. You
Right.
don't have to push any buttons, turn any keys, do anything except you
Right.
get up and walk away, and then the car knows, okay, they're not in the car anymore, and it locks it.
Yeah.
It turns itself off and locks.
And your radio is still on, your air is still on when you get out, so you don't think about, oh, I'm in this rented car, the air is still on, it must still be on. No,
Because that's the way a Tesla works.
right, it's still on when you get out of it and walk away.
Yes, it's
so.
only after it knows, okay, they've left.
Yeah.
So we can go to sleep now.
Yeah.
And it shuts itself off, pulls its mirrors in, and makes a beeping noise.
Fun fact. Oh, but before that, this came up at the break time. So Holly, who is listening, she said Tempest is one of her favorite video games.
Yes, we do like it a lot.
We
we have fond memories of
yes,
it.
we honeymooned for 2 weeks on the north shore of Lake Tahoe in Truckee, and we were in a cabin, and I was like, oh, we'll eat at the cabin. Yeah, no, that didn't happen. We went to A&W, we were like every day, and they had a Tempest game, and so we played Tempest like, it was like the only video game they had, so we played Tempest like every day when we went there. So
We got good at it.
yeah, we did. So, but
Now
anyway,
it's on our Tesla.
yes. So, fun fact. So when we took the Tesla to the car wash at Costco, and I folded the mirrors in so I could reach the pay thing, because I'm short and chubby, and so my arms don't always reach things. So I had the car fold the mirrors in. Well, then it says, do you want it to fold in the mirrors at this location all the time? So I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a good thing. So now like today I went to the car wash, and when I got there, the mirrors went "Meh," and folded in. I paid for it, went through the car wash, and then as I left, it went "Meh," back out again. But El Pollo Loco is right there by the car wash. So I went to El Pollo Loco the other night, and as I'm driving up to pick up the food, all of a sudden the mirrors go "Burp," and I was like, whoa. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm by the car wash. It's because the car doesn't know your intention. It knows you're near the car wash, but it doesn't know that's where you're going or why you need the mirrors folded in.
Yes.
Because you're chubby and have short arms. So
Yeah. So it's based on GPS.
yes.
So if you're close, it behaves as if.
But as soon as you drive away, they pop back out again.
Although I suspect that if we had the full self-driving rather than the basic self-driving, you can have it have more control over things. And so you would tell it, okay, I'm going to El Pollo Loco, I'm going to wherever, and it would alter its
Distinguish
behavior
between.
between the two.
Yeah. So that's one of the things we plan to get is the full self-driving.
Yeah. It's a $10,000 feature, although according to Elon Musk, they're going to be offering it on a subscription basis. So we'll see if that's more manageable. It's supposed to become available either this month or next month.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
So
Of course, we won't be able to do that until we get the registration. So the state of California,
come on, California, let's go.
either the dealership or the state of California will get their act together. Then,
I could call the dealership and see when they sent it in.
yeah,
So
see if they have records of it even.
yeah,
Don't know
I'm
how.
sure they do.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, we are very happy with electric vehicles. I began the transition toward electric things a number of years ago because I discovered, for instance, with garden tools that are gasoline powered versus garden tools that are electric, that the electric ones are a lot easier to use and lasted longer. And so, for instance, I had an edger that was gasoline powered, and it was always a big pain in the neck to use.
Replace the spark plug and
it
the
would break,
fuel filter.
and yeah, all sorts of things would go wrong with it. And when I got an electric one, I haven't had any of those problems, and it just keeps going and going and going.
And they're battery electric, not cord
Right.
electric. I was worried about him using a cord because he doesn't really
Am I
pay
clumsy?
attention to his own safety, and he would just mow over the electric cord and electrocute himself. So
Yeah.
that is something that
Yeah, the
concerned
mower
me.
that I got then is an electric mower. That was the next thing that I replaced. And again, much less hassle than using a gasoline-powered mower. That is, I don't have to sit there and keep yanking and yanking and yanking and yanking and try to get the thing to start. I just push a button and it goes. So I like that. Plus, it's a lot quieter. That's the other aspect of it. And there's no smell. That is, you just have the smell of cut grass. You don't have the smell of exhaust.
Although I love that combination smell, my mom had me take her mower blade into the place to get it sharpened, and I walked
Your
in
mom
there.
has an electric mower too.
Yeah, she does now. This was her old mower. But I walked in there and I was like, oh my gosh, it smells so good in here. Because there's all those engine smells and cut grass smell and
But to give you an example, my great aunt, who is the woman that raised my mother, back in the late 60s, she purchased for herself an electric lawnmower that had a cord.
Huh.
And, well, the lawn is very small, so
Right.
it wasn't that big a deal.
I didn't know they had them in the 60s.
Yeah, it's late 60s, early 70s. I remember when she had it. It must have been right around 69, 70, somewhere along there, because that would be the last time that I had interaction with the mower. She, of course, eventually died, and my parents had been living in that house and taking care of her, and so they just continued with living in that house. My mother still lives in that house. Up until 5 years ago, they were still using that same lawnmower.
Oh my gosh.
And when my mother finally got rid of it, it wasn't because there was a problem with it. It's just that she's 80-something, and she wanted to hire somebody to mow the grass for her.
So she's got rid of it. So.
And she kind of regrets doing so because she's had difficulty getting people reliable to mow her grass for her.
They don't have like landscape people that she can hire?
She's had trouble getting them to be, because the lawn is so small, there's not a lot of profit in it, I guess. So she's just had difficulty getting somebody to keep at it. But she did finally get somebody. They did her lawn Thursday this past week. So she's hopeful that this will work this time.
Find some teenager that needs some money.
You know, she's tried that. Not been too effective there either. But anyway, you think about it, from 1970 to 2015 or thereabouts, this electric lawnmower worked flawlessly. Wow. Again, electric stuff tends to endure, and so this is why we're hopeful, and why I'm hopeful, that is based on my experience with the garden equipment that's electric versus gasoline powered, and now my experience with the Nissan Leaf, and then that encouraged us to get the Tesla. It just seems kind of a no-brainer that this is the way to go.
Right.
Unless you enjoy spending an arm and a leg on fuel, and if you enjoy repairing your vehicle on a somewhat regular basis. I mean, if you're in the state of California, you gotta go every 2 or 3 years after it gets to a certain age to have it smog checked.
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years to get smog checked. And that's not cheap anymore.
Nope.
They keep raising the price on that.
Even if your car passes, it's not cheap. If it doesn't pass,
then it gets really expensive.
Catalytic converters are so expensive. We know because we had to replace them in our Sienna, which had over 200,000 miles on it, so it would need new cats. But I think that the cats that we got were not good ones because we were having trouble with them again. That's one of the reasons we got rid of it, because I didn't want to replace the catalytic converters again.
Yeah.
So... And then people steal the catalytic converters for the precious metals that are in them.
Right.
So there are people like in LA, Pasadena, that wake up one morning to go to work and their car has no catalytic converter, and because somebody went in there and cut it out and stole it, and then you're up a creek because you've got to pay to replace that, and they're really expensive. And you can't just buy any old one. It has to have the imprint of the car manufacturer on it. It has to be an official one. It's a racket.
Yes, the state of California has written the rules in such a way that it inevitably is going to be very expensive to keep your car smogged properly. I
Yeah.
mean, you can pass, so far as the amount of particulates or pollution that's coming out of your car, you can have practically nothing coming out, but if there's some other little mechanical thing that's not quite right, it won't pass.
Right. Your check engine light. If your check engine light is on, it's not going to pass.
Even if you're not putting out any pollution.
Right. So my mechanic, he would figure out why the check engine light was on. He would reset it, drive it around till it had the minimum number of miles that you could have, like after a reset, take it to his own place to get it smogged, and then it would pass smog. And we did that the last couple of times. I'm like, this is just too much. And I knew we'd need new cats again, and I just was like, this is too expensive.
Yeah.
So
The only added expense that an electric vehicle has that gasoline-powered cars don't have is that the cost of registering your vehicle is slightly higher, because the state of California in the last few years finally realized, wait a minute.
they're not paying gas
They're
taxes.
not paying gas taxes. We've got to do something about this. And so they charge us an extra $100 a year to try to make up for that to some
Which
extent.
is not how much you would pay in taxes on, like if you're driving a decent sized vehicle,
You'll pay a lot
or
more
with
than that.
or with as much power as a Tesla has, you would be paying a lot more than that. Like if you're driving one of those little like smart cars or a little Fiat or something, you're not going to fill up as much, but because it doesn't have the power, it doesn't suck as much gas. But if you're driving like a Ford F-150 or like something V8 or V6 that's going to use more gas, you're going to be paying more than $100 a year in
gas
taxes.
taxes. So the state of California has figured it out, and so they are taxing us now.
Right.
But that's not unreasonable, really.
Aren't our gas taxes like 40 cents or something for every dollar?
Trying to think what it is. It's quite a bit. It is part of the reason why gasoline is expensive. Well, there's two reasons gasoline is expensive in California. One, it has to be specially formulated for state regulations, and the only places that produce that kind of gasoline are all here in the state of California.
It's our own special brew.
Yes, special blend.
Yeah, a special blend. It's like it's craft brewed.
Yes.
It's a
and
craft
so there's a
brewed
limited
gasoline.
supply of this stuff, and so that drives the price up. And then secondly, our taxes on gasoline are sky high. That is, you have sales tax, you've got a gas tax that the state imposes, and then you've got the federal gas tax. And so what the state imposes is actually more than what the feds impose. I can't remember. If you go to the gas station, they have someplace a little chart that tells you what all the taxes are. And of course, the sales tax here in the state of California is now almost 10%.
Well, depending on where you are. In LA County, it's 10%.
Almost 9
Yeah.
3/4.
Right. But Orange County isn't quite as high, and Kern County is a lot lower. Those are our bordering counties, and Ventura County is less.
Right.
But LA County is really huge, and we pay almost 10%.
In sales taxes.
Yeah. Like when my kids go to the book
And-
fair, I tell them to take the price of the book, take off the last digit, and they have to add that amount to the price of the book so they know how much money they need because they have to pay sales tax.
And this is off the topic, but when I first moved to the state of California, I think it was 5 3/4% in LA County for sales tax. And over the years, they've added temporary sales tax increases, which of
never go
course
away.
never went away. We had an earthquake, so they added a sales tax. This thing happened, they added a sales tax, but these are just temporary. Don't worry about it. No, they're there forever.
They're temporary because you are not going to live forever.
Yes. Yeah, death and taxes. Eventually, you escape your taxes.
Yes, by dying.
By dying.
Which then they tax what you leave to your kids, and they tax the cost of your funeral. So
Yes,
even dying doesn't get you out of it.
No, you still have to pay some extra taxes even after you're gone, or at least the people that are dealing with your carcass do.
Right.
So, yeah, but overall, your expenses in driving and having an electric car are considerably less than your expenses with a gasoline-powered car. As far as how long it would be between what you pay extra for an electric car versus a gasoline-powered car, how long it is before you'll recoup that you'd have to figure that out for yourself. Plus, it's also going to depend on what kind of car you're getting. If you're getting a little tiny, Honda, it may be quite a while before you'd balance it out. But if you're buying a mid-sized or full-size car, probably it's going to be pretty quick. Now, some people worry about the, people recognize that, okay, an electric car, while it's driving around, is producing absolutely zero pollution. As you could park it inside your bedroom and run the thing, and you will not die from anything, though it would take up an awful lot of space and be hard to sleep. But people wonder, what about the environmental cost of producing the batteries and building the car and all of that sort of thing? And people have done the calculations, and electric cars are still less polluting over their lifetime than what any gasoline-powered car is. Because the gasoline-powered car, you've got to factor in the cost of digging the oil out of the ground, refining it, transporting it, and then, of course, putting it in your tank, and then...
Plus, you have all the other oil products that go into a car, like the engine oil and things like that. Now, something that the electric cars and gas-powered cars have in common, as far as oil goes, is you're going to have the grease for the bearings, things like that. But it's way less than what you'd have. Like my license plate for my Leaf says 0 oil, and somebody said, well, you've got grease in the bearings. I'm like, yeah, but I don't have any oil in the engine. I'm not using gas, which comes from oil. So it really is basically 0 oil.
Right. And so it is the case that mining some of the metals that are used in the batteries is not particularly environmentally friendly. But even factoring in that, an electric car is still more environmentally sound than any gasoline-powered vehicle.
Plus, you don't have to frack to get those out.
And even as far as how the electricity is produced, in most of the U.S., it's not being produced by heavily polluting power plants, as it's being produced by natural gas, which is not ideal, but better than coal. Or it's using, like in the Pacific Northwest, it's mostly hydroelectric. Here in California, it's going to be a mixture of natural gas, wind, and solar, with a little bit of nuclear. And quite frankly, this was going to be, this has been pushed off. If people are actually that serious about wanting to reduce carbon emissions, then nuclear would be the thing to push, because that's one of the quickest and easiest ways we would have of getting off of any polluting source of producing electricity.
Right. And it would also greatly reduce the cost of electricity.
Right.
Initially, you have a huge outlay of money because you have to build the nuclear plants. But
of course, part of the problem with nuclear are all the regulatory barriers to building nuclear plants, because people are afraid of nuclear energy, irrationally afraid of nuclear energy.
Well, it's from the monster movies from the 50s and things like that, and
yes, and then the way that 3 Mile Island or Chernobyl or the Fukuyama thing in Japan, how they're talked about in the news media.
Right. But if you do the research on the newest generation of nuclear, they actually know how to get it to use its waste products to generate more energy. So you don't have nuclear waste housed in bunkers, although the nuclear waste that's in these bunkers has never leaked out.
And quite frankly, the fossil fuels kill people on a regular basis every year. That is, the people that mine coal die of various things and so on. That is, all the more traditional ways of generating electricity are far more hazardous to your health. But people get freaked out over the whole idea of radiation, and somehow this is going to kill them off quickly.
Or we'll have a bunch of radioactive freaks walking around killing people.
3 Mile Island, which was the disaster in the U.S. quite a number of years ago now. The number of deaths from that was 0. And that's the worst nuclear accident in U.S. history, and nobody died from it. Chernobyl, which was a disaster waiting to happen, essentially think in terms of if a nuclear power plant was built by the same people that built the Yugo. That's what you got. And yeah, that was, nobody in their right mind would have built a power plant the way they built that one. Obviously Soviet Union didn't. Communists don't care. For instance, this is off the topic again, but this is a rant. China. They just launched this week their first piece of their space station that they're putting up. The second stage of this rocket weighs 20 or 30 tons. It's completely out of control because the Chinese didn't bother to put anything in there to control the thing. So it's just going to come down willy-nilly, who knows where. This violates several space treaties, but that's the way the Chinese do things. It's not the first time they've launched this kind of rocket. It's not the first time this happened. About 2 or 3 years ago, they did the same thing. They launched one of these rockets. Second stage has no way of coming down in a controlled fashion. If it had come down 30 minutes earlier than what it did, it ended up in the Atlantic Ocean, it would have smashed into New York City. They don't care. They launch rockets in the middle of their country, some of them, and the pieces fall back down onto the countryside, and oftentimes they land in villages or on people's houses, and the Chinese don't care.
The reason we launch things from where we do is because we launch it over water. Actually, you were telling me about the Dragon thing.
Falcon 9, when they bring them back, and see, SpaceX is the only company related to Tesla too, so we can make that connection. SpaceX is the only company that manages to land their boosters after they launch them. When they bring them back, they actually aim them away from either the drone ship or the landing pad at Kennedy Space Center. And only at the last minute, when everything is clear that yes, this is going to work, do they shift it back so it actually comes down on the thing. So if something were to go wrong, it would miss the drone ship or it'd land in the ocean.
Right. So.
And any of the second stages, any of the junk that is left from launch that the U.S. does or India, anybody except China, the upper stages are designed to deorbit themselves in a controlled fashion. That is, in the early history of the space program, back in the 60s, not so much, but, we've figured out that, it's not safe just to have things coming down in an uncontrolled fashion. And so the treaties now specify that, you're supposed to deorbit stuff, not just leave it up there as junk or have it come down in an uncontrolled fashion. China is a signatory to those regulations, but they don't give a damn.
Yeah, they don't care about human life. So my brother did say he likes fracking.
Well, I'm sure he would not have a job otherwise. And fracking is good in the sense that
full disclosure.
Yeah, and fracking is good because it makes oil cheaper, at least outside the state of California.
Right.
So it's been not a bad thing, and it's no more hazardous to the environment than any other oil production method, really, despite the horror stories that the news media tries to bring out now and again. We've talked about before the importance of finding first-hand sources for things, primary source materials, and actually finding out what's really going on rather than relying on hysterical people in the news media to tell you what's going wrong. Because the news media, the only way to get you to watch what they're doing is if they scare you. Here are 3 things that will kill you. We'll see you after the commercials that you have in your home. Yeah, that keeps you watching.
Yep.
But no, electric cars, and again, if you ever drive an electric car, that's when you realize, why have I been driving a gasoline-powered car all this time when I could have had something like this?
Yes. Well, the cool thing about it, when you take off, you can drive a high-powered gas vehicle, but the car, whether it's manual or automatic, it still has to shift through gears with the transmission, and the electric car doesn't do that. So you are
There's
like
no
here,
transmission.
then you're there, and it was all super smooth.
Yeah, that is, you get full power from your engine at the very, as soon as you push on the gas or on the accelerator.
My principal
That
has,
is, it doesn't spool up. That is, you get all 300 horses instantly.
yeah.
And the electric cars are heavy because of the batteries, and so you don't skid out either. That is, you just go.
Yeah, that's the problem. You can't burn rubber in them.
Yeah, you can't
so
burn rubber.
You got to rent a car if you want to burn rubber.
Yeah, it's really hard to burn rubber in an electric car. I'm sure it could be done if you worked at it. but
Well, you can skid though if it's wet, if
Yeah.
the ground is wet. So you have to be careful in rain and stuff because I mean it'll slide like it does in a gas powered car. So you just need to be careful like you would in a gas powered car.
Yeah, it's no. Actually, again, thinking in terms of Teslas specifically, they're also the safest vehicle on the market. That is, they have 5-star safety ratings for all aspects of.
They actually
do.
broke the test equipment
Yes.
when they were testing the
They're
safety
crushing
of it.
Yeah,
And-
broke the machine they used to try to crush the car rather than crushing the car.
Yeah.
So,
So I wanted to say too that with my Leaf, which is not high performance like the Tesla is, my principal has a really nice Mustang, and so I raced him from a dead stop across an intersection. It was safe; there were no cars coming the other way. It was just the two of us, and as long as I hit the gas at the same time he did, I beat him across the intersection. Now, being in a Leaf and not having a whole lot of battery, I can't maintain that for a long time. Now the Tesla, I could smoke them for days, but the Leaf, I just left him in the dirt. Of course, there is a video of me racing my nephew. He had one of those.
well, he had an old
It was a-
Volkswagen Beetle.
Right, and it was like the dune buggy kind. And so we do have, my sister was following in her car, and Thomas and I were at the intersection, and my sister was filming it from behind, and it was funny because he's like, "Bleh," trying to get across the intersection, and the Leaf's like, whoa, gone. But yes, I did beat a Mustang across the intersection. I've tried to get my principal. I told him you could drive my car, but I think
Tesla.
right, the Tesla. But I think that part of what's keeping him from doing it is COVID, because we just have to be really careful because we're around kids and stuff like that, and district.
Although we're
and stuff.
both vaccinated now.
Now, but we weren't
We weren't
then.
then.
So I'm hoping that he'll drive it because I told him, I said, you get in this thing, you're going to be wanting.
Downside of an electric car is if you do ever get in one and drive it, you'll be dissatisfied with everything else.
Yes. So no, you won't go back.
So you're not likely to go back because you'll realize once you get in one and drive it, this is a much better vehicle.
And we haven't had to make any modifications to our house. When we initially got the Leaf, we plugged it into just trickle charge into regular
takes
outlet.
forever.
Yeah, so it'd like take 12 hours to. So sometimes in the morning I'd be ready to go to work, and it wouldn't be fully charged. It'd be enough I could get to work because I only live 5 miles from work. But we had a friend who is an electrician come out and extend our outside plug along the garage, so that it would be closer so we could plug it in.
And any electric car, you can't. Yeah, they even come with a cord to do that.
I've plugged
But
it
it's
in
gonna
here at the
take
church.
Forever.
Yeah, we opened up the French doors and I plugged it in into the floor in the library because I needed more juice. This is before we got our new battery.
Yes.
So
with
it was,
the Leaf.
it was partially degraded, and I
We
had
knew
run a
it was,
bunch of
yeah, we
invents.
knew when we got it that it was going to have to be replaced, but that was factored in buying the thing. That
Right.
is that we had the guarantee, and as soon as it got to certain poor quality, they
Right.
replaced it for us.
And this one's not degrading as fast as the other one
No.
did, because this one's already gone about 80,000 miles or so,
Yeah.
and it's only lost 1 bar, and the
Yeah,
other one was already down.
Nissan
3 at
over time
40,000.
has improved their battery tech,
Yeah.
but it was not that great in 2011 when they 1st did it.
But then we got a level 2 charger that's on a cord, so
That
we
plugs into the
because right now nothing fits in our garage.
Yeah.
So it
But-
plugs into our dryer plug.
which we don't use because we have a gas dryer.
Right. So it's plugged into the dryer plug, and the cord just comes out
So
from under
that's
the garage door.
240 volts, and that charges cars in a reasonable length of time.
Right. And it charges the Tesla. Most of the time it charges it by morning. If we've really depleted the battery, it might not. But you have still like 200 miles you can go. So it's not like we need that many miles on a daily basis.
Right.
And if we have to, we just take it to a charger and fill it up.
Right.
So, but eventually we'll get probably a Tesla charger at the house, but we would have to do some stuff with our electricity because the electrical in our house is really wonky.
Yeah,
so
the house is, well, it was built in 1980, and yeah, it leaves a lot to be desired from the electrical standpoint. It's
yeah,
got
well,
some
whoever
oddities.
did the electric in our house did it really badly.
Yes.
So, like, we can't use the coach lights on the garage. I mean, we could have fixed it before now, but it just wasn't a priority. So, because they're like, if you touch them, you get electrocuted. So,
Yeah.
he learned that the hard way.
And also, like with the new house or anything recent years, the microwave is on a separate circuit from other things. In our house, it's on the same circuit as a bunch of other things. And so if you run too many things at once, boom, you have to go and reset the circuit breaker.
Well, you can't run the pool filter and the jacuzzi tub and charge the car at the same
yeah,
time.
it doesn't work.
Which is weird because my bathtub is way on this end of the house, the pool filter's out in the backyard, and the car's way over here plugged into the garage. Totally different plugs. Like, who thought that?
A long distance away from each other,
Yeah.
but somehow they're all on the same circuit.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, we wonder about the people that designed the circuitry in the house.
They just went. It's kind of like that guy in the movie Airplane, who like turns off the lights on the runway. Is like, ha ha ha.
Yeah.
It's that guy that did
We're
it.
at 5 o'clock.
We are.
We used up our time.
We did. So next week we're going to be starting in on the Mosaic Law, and kind of breaking that down into the format of it, and we'll be getting into that topic. So
Yes.
we encourage you to join us. The calendar will reflect the title and all that kind of stuff once he gets it changed up. So anyway, we apologize for the really bad connectivity today, but it's the wind. We can't control it.
Yeah.
So, so join us next week at 4 o'clock. And if you subscribe to the YouTube channel or like the Facebook page, then you'll get notified when we go on air. So,
Yeah. But it's usually 4 o'clock every Saturday. And of course,
except for the Saturdays we don't.
yes, and of course the shows are archived, so you can
Yeah.
always go. If you miss it, you can always go back and watch it
Right.
later.
But please message us if you have an idea for a show. You can always email us at
Info at
info@theology.edu. I'm always unsure of myself now.
Or
'cause
you
I
can just say
keep saying it
Robin
wrong.
at theology.edu.
Yeah,
That works.
either
too.
way. So
Yeah.
anyway, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next Saturday.
Yes.
Lord willing,
Lord
and the
willing.
creek don't rise.
Yep.